Welcome to From the Tailgate, where we talk sports and music. All the while we sit up on the tailgate with the grill fired up and a cold adult snack in our hand. You know what I'm talking about. We are psyched for you to join us, so drop your tailgate and listen in as we bring in some great guests from the world of football, music, and pitmasters, helping your grill game, and local brewers guiding us to the best local craft beers. All right, let's get to the show.
Welcome in, y'all, to our first episode of the New England version of From the Tailgate. So to our older listeners, folks who have been following us for a while, listening in for a while, if you'll bear with us for a second as we kind of bring New England up to speed on what we talk about and how things go. So to my friends in Texas, in Florida, Tennessee, and North Carolina, just grab an adult cold snack and kind of listen to the story one more time. Of course, you know that's kind of the theme of the show anyway, so grab one. Drop that tailgate, of course. So, tailgating, what's it mean to us here at the show? Well, for me personally, as the host, Cliff, better known as the commish, as in commissioner of Tailgate, it all started when I was a kid. My grandfather was my best friend, and he had this oddly yellow F-100 pickup truck that he ran his construction business through. And he'd be out there working many a day, and I'd sit out there, and he'd call me over, and we'd drop the tailgate, and we'd sit there and we would talk. Well, talking eventually turned into working and helping him out and learning from him and listening to his stories. And his stories, to this day in my life, are the best stories I ever heard. They were told with such a flair that I still, to this day, don't forget any of them. I wish I was half as good as he was, but I give it my whirl. So tailgating became that version, my young adult life. In fact, I can remember to this day my first date as a kid. I think I was in the 8th grade. And my grandfather drove my date and I to the movies. And when we were done and he picked us up from the movies, he took us out for ice cream. And I can remember the three of us sitting on the tailgate, talking away, laughing, with her hearing my grandfather's stories for the first time and the smiles that were on her face. It was just not replaceable. So I kind of grew up on the tailgate, for lack of a better way to put it. I went off to high school. My grandfather passed away, probably the most difficult time of my life. But he left me that yellow F-100 truck. And that F-100 truck is probably where I spent most of my firsts. Tailgating after high school games, going to high school games, playing in high school games, going off to see colleges, fishing, hanging out, you name it, it happened on the back of that truck. So life happens, and I went off to college and got involved in sports and worked in sports afterwards for a long, long time. And tailgating again became part of my life because eventually you can't play anymore. So what better? Have a good game before the game. And that's what we do around here. So we hope you'll join us on a weekly basis. Follow us on social media at From the Tailgate, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, and join in the fun. So we've come to a conclusion over the 4 or 5 years that we've been doing this, that there's really 4 things we know. Let's start with football. Everything from the tailgate forward is what we're going to talk here. We're going to talk about how to set up your tailgate, where we're going to be. We'll be out at Gillette Stadium for every game. We'll be having a blast with it. And when we're not at the stadium because it's an away game, we'll have somewhere else that we can all go and watch the game together and enjoy the experience of tailgating, even if it's an away game. We'll also be going out to Seattle for the Seattle Seahawks game versus our beloved Patriots. And we'll be reporting back because they talk an awful lot about the 12th man out there. I got to see it up close because I believe Gillette rocks way better than that. I don't care about decibels and all that other stuff they talk about out there. We're going to get into fantasy football. We'll have 2 leagues. We'll have a regular league and a rookie league. So if you've never done fantasy football, you'll be able to do it with the friends of the show. And if you're real good at it, you'll be able to talk a lot of smack on a regular basis about ours. All of that stuff will be hosted on our website, www.fromthetailgate.com. We'll invite you to go there as much and as often as you like. Okay, the next thing, music, live music in particular, country music in particular, with still some of that old school rock and roll that we grew up on here in New England. It was funny for me to find out how powerful country music is here in New England. Some of the best country music fans come out of this Boston area, and I love it. Just look at Gillette Stadium at the end of every summer with Kenny Chesney and 2, not 1, but 2 sold out wall-to-wall shows with some of the best tailgating I've ever experienced. Jimmy Buffett's got that little place in my heart as it relates to their tailgating, but there's nothing better than 70,000 country music fans here in Boston. And I've been to a lot of shows and a lot of festivals. To me, it's the best. I think because we see less of it here, we appreciate it more. So we'll be out at every music festival you can think of. We're going to keep a continuous playlist, thanks to our friends at Spotify, on our website of, for lack of a better word, music for the tailgate. We'll have some great guests from the music business, country music industry, and more for you to listen into. We look forward to that as well. Beer. Is there a better word out there than beer? Maybe 1 or 2, but I'm not sure. We love craft beer. Now, don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with a Bud Light on a Friday night. Ice cold. But over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, we've visited over 100 breweries, tasted beer from all over the South, and we knew we had it up here in New England. The beer here is great. So craft beer is this interesting world. It's growing and growing and growing and becoming a bigger part of the beer community. But it's something you can talk about. When I was younger, you had 3 or 4 different beers, and it was whatever one was on sale, quite frankly. Now it's different. Here in New England, we're famous or infamous, whatever you want to call it, for our hazy IPAs and IPAs in general. There's a lot more stuff out there. And we're going to talk about it every week. We're going to visit breweries all over the great area of New England, and we're going to share with you their trade secrets and their secrets so that when you walk into the Packy, you know exactly what you're looking for to try the next time you're going to try a new beer. So we're looking forward to doing that. And we're looking forward to having on really smart people to educate us all about craft beer. Here's the cool one for me personally. I grew up thinking, I don't want to grill. I don't want to cook. I don't want to do any of that stuff. Now, all I look forward to do is grilling, especially at a tailgate. And having spent the time I did in the South, in Texas and North Carolina and Florida and Georgia and Tennessee, I was able to learn from some of the best pit masters out there. We're going to bring those folks on as guests of the show. You're going to have an opportunity to learn from all different places just how different barbecue is. And I'm especially excited to get into what we do here in New England that's different than everywhere else. Now, truth be told, I became kind of a Texas barbecue guy. I had a lot of opportunities to cook with a lot of great people down there, learn a lot of great things, and learn that there are 4 ingredients to barbecuing: salt, pepper, garlic, butter. Everything else is dressing. So we'll talk about that a lot. It really taught me how to prepare the meats because we're not covering them up with all these sauces. Now, North Carolina, spent some time there. They've got great barbecue. Famous barbecue. But they like their sauces. So that's a whole different approach. I'm excited to learn more about New England's style of barbecue and try it. And I'm excited to bring to you what I've learned all over the country down south. I'd be remiss after sharing those 4 things with you if I didn't talk about kind of what's going on in the world today. Because it's changed our show. It put our show on hold for a good 6 months. And we're not on the radio currently. We're just doing the podcast. We'll be back on the radio before the fall, and that announcement will come here. However, I want to talk about tailgating. And I've come up with a new statement for us about tailgating to start this off with. First, I want to say this, and it'll ring true every single week, every single month, every single year. Tailgating is colorblind. Folks, we don't care about anything except for what do you bring to the tailgate. Don't bring warm beer. Don't burn the food on the grill. Please don't talk fantasy football like you know what you're doing and you don't. Please don't talk football like you know what you're doing and you don't. All at the tailgate, because communication is the thing at the tailgate. I've met some of the greatest people I will ever meet at tailgates that I would have never met before. I'm going to continue those opportunities for everyone that listens to our show, whether you're out with us at Gillette or a show or wherever the case may be. We're going to grow our family of tailgaters. I hate what's going on right now. I hate all this business with the COVID, not knowing what is right to do, what is wrong to do, how to do it, who's telling us what. There's no real knowledge of what's really going on. I just know this. Good people haven't made it through this COVID thing. And we need to respect that that's a fact and hang that out there. Lately, there's been a lot of strong dislike going on in the country, a divide, for lack of a better word. When you tune in here to our show every week, that's just not going to happen. We're not going down that road. This is a great country. I love my country. We love our country. We love the flag. We love the freedom to do the things that we love to do and to talk about them. And that's that. That's the end of that. You're not going to hear a whole lot of rhetoric here on the show about that stuff. There's plenty of that noise going on. I was looking at my Twitter feed just before I recorded this, and it's gotten crazy, and there's no need for it. So for at least a half hour this week and an hour every week on a go-forward basis, you'll be able to dial down and get away from all that noise with us. Today we'll bring on only one guest. Normally we have 3. Today we have Joe Fernandez, and Joe is from Grapes and Grains. Now there's a little story to Joe. Minutes of dialect. Joe says to me, I know exactly what I want you to try. And he brought me out a couple of different beers to try over the weekend. Didn't ever walk in the store. Handed him my credit card. He went in the store, processed it. Literally, they are completely curbside delivery right now at this point during COVID. So we get to talking after that. A little bit. I'm asking him about local breweries, crafts. You could never get enough knowledge. And I got to a point where I said, boy, I've got to have him on the show. So from a parking lot in Barrington, Rhode Island to our show here is Joe Fernandez. Joe, welcome to the show.
Greg, thanks for having me. Cliff.
See, he's forgotten my name already, but we'll let him slide on that.
Hey, you forgot the name of the store twice, so we'll let that one slide. We'll call it even.
It was the first take, though, you know. Anyway, the first beer, the first brewery that Joe turned me on to is Proclamation Ale. And he brought me out some Tendril, which is a really, really good IPA. Not what we're going to talk about today, though. So when I said we're going to talk about a couple of beers, he said, I got to bring you in this one. I think it's really going to surprise you. So tonight we're going to try Flummox from Proclamation Ale, and it is a beautiful looking Pilsner. Can is cool. It's a 5.2 APV. Nice 1-pint cans. I'm going to let go to you, though, now. You tell me all about this beer and why you thought it would be a good fit for tonight.
So Proclamation is kind of known. They're an ale company first and foremost. So with beer, it's like ales and lagers. So this is essentially their lager, or Flummox being the Pilsner, which is the lighter, younger brother to the lager. And they're not known for it, but it is a beer that I just felt gets overshadowed by all the huge double IPAs and crazy new innovations that they come out with every week, month, whatever it be. And it's, as a not necessarily a big beer guy coming into the industry, I was big on the domestic stuff. Pilsners were like my first introduction. So being able to go to a brewery that was so well known, local, and be able to crack open a beer that even I could approach was something I felt like I had to let people know about,
Absolutely. And frankly, we kind of met last night and we talked about these different beers, and I had the chance to try it. And let me tell you something. 2 words popped into my mind: boat beer.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be out on the boat all day long, you want to be responsible, you want nice, real cold beer, this is perfect for it. It's not a super elevated ABV. It tastes great.
This is a great beer for your Miller Lite, your Miller High Life lovers that are, trying to maybe take that step into the craft beer world. They're trying to, but they're not quite ready for that IPA. They don't want that big hop forward, profile. They're just looking for something clean, crisp, but with like a little bit more body, a little bit more flavor. And I think it's just a great introduction to the craft beer world in general.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's just a perfect fit. I really do. When you first say, okay, I'm going to start trying these craft beers. You love beer. You've been drinking XYZ beer your whole life. Now you want to try crafts. See what everybody's raving about. Well, you walk in anywhere and you say IPA, and there's 300,000 of them. It's a big step from Budweiser to an IPA.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas this Flummox, I feel like, is right in the middle. You're coming off of that. This is a good entry gateway to a craft beer scene. The flavor is so much better.
It's just a natural next step if you're going into it. It's like, don't get me wrong. Love a nice domestic on a Friday night, just something that's really easy to toss back. But, you got to support the local guys, got to see what's out there. You can't be living in the domestic fridge forever. And this was just like my ticket in,
Yep. Well, I've kind of evolved over the course of time. I was that guy, 30-pack on the weekend, ready to go. But I've got to a point now where my palate, my taste, I've got to have more than that. And this has been a great opportunity for me, trying all these great beers over the last 4 or 5 years, all over the country in these craft breweries, to really learn the difference. It's amazing how much better it is. So you're a young buck compared to me. You're making that evolution a lot earlier in life than I did. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where you're at 2.5, 3 years down the road, because you've been in the industry now about 1.5 years, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So you've really got your feet wet now, and you've learned a lot about the breweries that are here in town, here in New England. And that's what we're going to focus on here on the show, folks, is we're going to talk about the beer that you can go out and get that's from here. We're going to support local every single week. If I'm going to be tailgating at Gillette Stadium, I'm going to be supporting a local brewery. Whether it's Wormtown, which is right across the street there with their new big location, or it's a neat beer like Flummox from Proclamation, or if it's Gray Sail Brewing out of Westerly, Rhode Island, which is what we're going to get into next. The other beer that you brought along today, I have not tried this as of yet, and I'm looking forward to trying it tonight. It's a Sessions IPA, and it's called Little Sister. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that beer?
So Gray Sail, just to start off, is one of the breweries, the local breweries, that is very near and dear to my heart. Once I finally made that transition to the craft beer world, I was able to try a lot of different things. Gray Sail was just a brewery that always seemed to knock it out of the park with me, no matter whether it was their session ale or their IPA, that it was just always quality no matter what. And the Captain's Daughter is kind of the double IPA that they're most well known for. It's big, it's bold, it's boozy, it's everything a New Englander wants.
So what do you mean by boozy? So for the listener who's brand new to craft beer, what do you mean by boozy?
It's a little higher. So a double IPA means a double India Pale Ale. It's got more alcohol per volume, and it's got that big dank profile that you just expect with a New England IPA. And then the Little Sister, this is actually released within the last year. And what they did was they aimed to bring you that same kind of really interesting and unique hop profile, but not at that, really high alcohol. He brought it down below that 5% points where you can have a couple of them, but it's not going to kick your butt right off the bat. You can have one or two of them and you're still going to get the flavor, but you're not sacrificing for the alcohol.
I can't help but bring this up because I'm looking at the can and it makes me laugh. When I was in college, there was two girls. One was a senior in college and one was a sophomore in college. And I was crazy about the girl that was a senior. I kept talking to her. She's like, I don't want anything to do with football players. It's just not my thing. Still kept trying. Inadvertently, I met her little sister. And I ended up dating her little sister for a year and a half. And we're still friends to this day. So now when I look at this beer, all I'm going to think of is that college where I went from the big sister to the little sister. It's a good story, at least.
And you have a beer to prove it. Or to tell alongside.
Right. She doesn't really look like the girl on the can, but she was an attractive young lady. But so from now on, when I'm drinking this session beer, I'll be thinking college.
Hey, I mean, isn't that like, the thing with beers? It's the memories, what brings you back.
Listen, we talked a little bit earlier in the show, and I'm going to go back to it again while I've got you across from me. The whole purpose of talking about a show in a tailgate format is you're sitting out in the field at the football game, before a Kenny Chesney concert, in your backyard for that matter, and you're sitting on the tailgate of your truck, like I grew up doing with my grandfather and love so much. And this is the stuff you talk about. You talk about life. You talk about what's going on. What does that can of beer make me think about? What does going to a particular football game make me think about? Why are we here? To me, it's like the last bastion of communication. Do you ever go to a tailgate and see everybody just sitting there with their phones?
I can't say I have, no.
No, because it doesn't happen. You're either cooking, you're getting somebody beers, you're having a conversation like we're having right now, or you're whipping somebody's butt in cornhole, or vice versa. But you're doing something. You're getting ready for the game in a social way. To me, it's like in the old days, they had the water cooler at work. You'd take your 15-minute break or whatever it may be, and people would go gather around the water cooler and talk and communicate. That's over. People now on their break, first thing they reach for is their phone. They're looking at their TikTok and all this other stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's great technology and it's a lot of fun. But I'd so much rather sit across from somebody and look them in their eyes and be talking life. And so, yeah, when you're sitting here and you see little sister on the can, and this is the first time you've brought this in front of me, and it brings that story up, that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to educate you about beer, but we're going to have a fun time doing it. We'll probably embarrass ourselves with some silly stories. But in the long run, when you walk into the local packy, you're going to be able to say, there's that beer the guys were talking about. And you'll know what it is, and you'll want to go try it. The great thing about having Joe be part of this process is he's only a year and a half ahead. Now, he's spent a lot of the last year and a half really learning his trade, and he's smart, believe me. I ask him a lot of questions about New England crafts, and he's got the answers, and he knows the people. And if we don't have the answers and you have a question, we know who to go talk to get the answers. So it's an outstanding situation. So that's the long story on Little Sister. I like that, the long on little. It's something I'm going to try tonight and see if I love it. One of the things that we'll be doing is Joe will be writing up 25 words or less on each beer we talk about on the show each week. And then we'll post it on the website, on our social media platforms, so you can go back to it. You can go see it. We'll also be putting up a little directory, for lack of a better word, on the website about what an IPA is, what's an amber ale, what's a session IPA. Because when you walk into a store and you're new to craft, or you're a veteran, I'm a veteran of it, and I'm still learning every day about it. You're going to have this as a nice resource. Website comes up very nicely in a mobile app. You could be right there in the store and say, what do I want to try tonight? So we'll have that up there for you right after the show debuts, and it's going to be a fun process for us. We're also going to be out and about. We're going to be at a lot of cool places that are going to be announced in the next few weeks as we get through this COVID thing and we learn what we can and we can't do. But here's what I am going to guarantee you, folks. we're going to tailgate. We might tailgate in a field. We might tailgate in a backyard. At a football game where we're not allowed to go in because there's no fans allowed in. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to make it happen. And we want to get together and be social in the ways that we're allowed to at that point in time. So we're excited that you're coming along for this ride with us. We're enjoying the time. Joe, so much fun having you on tonight.
It's great being here.
I got to ask you a question, though.
Absolutely.
And here's that big teaser. I got to be the radio guy for a minute. What are we thinking for next week?
So next week, we're going to take a little bit of another step away from our traditional lager pilsners. And then we're going to bring in another really cool, really local IPA. You know, I like to bring in the one that you don't expect and one that you do, because there's just so much out there in the beer world. And while we're super IPA heavy right now, there's just, from my short time in the industry, I found out there's just so many different styles.
I got a question for you. How familiar are you with Smug?
Smug. They are a brewery I wish I could be more familiar with. They're local right out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, but I carry them. I carry as much as they'll give me.
Yeah, I only bring it up because I kind of like to wrap up going back to football a little bit. I'm a football guy. They came out with a beer called Tailgate. Did you hear this?
I might have heard tale.
Okay, first it's a sour. So I'm not a big sour person, although I did experiment a little bit this week with my friends over at Trinity, and I had their Orange Solstice, and it was really good. And I am not a sour guy, as you guys know. Tailgate is based on our friend Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski heading south to Tampa, like most people do when they want to retire from New England. The can looks like the old Tampa Bay Buccaneers logo. It's got some maps. It's got some funny things on it. It's sold out in a heartbeat. They're literally having to go back to the well and make a lot more than they thought. I'm going to try to reach out to the folks at Smug and see if we can get them to join us and talk about that next week, because what better than football and beer?
Peanut butter and jelly, right?
Yeah, you with me on this?
Oh, I'm with you.
All right, so we'll bring those folks in if we can get a hold of them. If not, it'll be the following week. Well, we appreciate you tuning in tonight. We know you have a lot of options as to what you can do to entertain yourself. We hope you were driving down the road listening to us or sitting on your back deck. Whatever the case may be, enjoy your tailgate. Talk to you soon down the road.
Thanks for tuning in. We love having you as part of our Tailgate family. Until next time, follow us on Instagram and Twitter @FromTheTailgate. Or check out all kinds of cool stuff on our website, from grilling tips to music playlists, sports updates, and more. All at FromTheTailgate.com.